Secret project, the Time Tunnel.
One show sent its heroes into history and never brought them home. They fell through time with real Cold War computers and vanished into the Titanic, Gettysburg, even King Arthur's court. Some came back changed. Some never came back at all. 800 floors underground, a secret base tried to track them, but the machine had other plans. It cost nearly $1 million, used real defense hardware, and ended on a cliffhanger no one ever solved. And here's the twist: after decades of silence, the tunnel reopened, but not on television. Today, we're diving into 40 strangest facts about the Time Tunnel 1966, where history, science, and chaos collided in one spiral. Stay till the end because the tunnel's final secret might still be running, and subscribe to Movie Goofs. Real Cold War computers on the set. The control room walls were not cheap props. The production used authentic hardware traced to Sage air defense systems from the Cold War. Those cabinets brought real indicator lamps, rotary switches, and dense panel layouts. Cinematographers could rely on practical light from the consoles, which helped faces and metal surfaces look convincing. The geometry matched how command centers truly looked in the early computer era. Some pieces have been identified as Burroughs-style mainframe panels as well. Using surplus gear solved cost and realism at once. It avoided building everything from scratch while delivering heavyweight visuals. That is why tunnel control still reads as serious science on camera. The set sells the premise before a single line of dialogue is spoken. An underground base 800 floors deep. Project TikTok is not shown as a small lab. Dialogue in the pilot describes a near-future defense site buried under the Arizona desert with 800 floors and more than 12,000 staff. That single claim expands the world without building hundreds of sets. It justifies instant access to specialists, archives, and retrieval attempts each week. Viewers understand why the team can research any era and act fast. Cuts from field danger to a vast organization feel logical. In prime time, during 1966, stating a secret city underfoot added scale at low cost. One giant control room plus a few corridors become a whole invisible complex. It is classic Irwin Allen economy with big ambition. The pilot cost nearly $1 million in 1966. Network publicity pushed the scale hard. Reports said the pilot approached the $1 million mark. Enormous for weekly television then. You can see the spend. A huge tunnel set extended with matte and optical tricks. Extensive period costumes for Titanic material. Editorial work that blended new photography with selected film library shots. That investment gave the series a feature-level sheen from the first night. It also set a budget ceiling the show had to respect later. Episodes leaned on standing sets, stock footage, and clever reuse to keep scope wide. The opening hour did its job. It introduced the spiral tunnel look, proved the production muscle, and positioned the show as an event. There is an extended pilot cut with a different ending beat. Beyond the broadcast version, an extended pilot exists. It surfaced through archives and later home video. The longer cut lingers on Washington oversight and ethical arguments about human testing. Titanic mechanics play out with more suspense. The shape of the series becomes clearer. Control room problem solving intercuts with field jeopardy in longer wave. Comparing both cuts shows what was trimmed for time or notes. It also shows what Irwin Allen preferred for tone and momentum. The alternate ending beat shifts the aftertaste of the pilot while keeping the core jump in place. For historians and fans, it is a useful map of how spectacle and procedure were balanced under tight schedule. Titanic scenes drawn from the 1953 film, then tinted. The pilot delivers ocean liner scale by repurposing black and white footage from the 1953 feature film Titanic. The shots were processed and tinted to blend with 1966 color production. This is careful craft, not a simple paste. Angles and wardrobe were matched. Music and cutting knit movie material to new scenes with the leads. Tinting helps unify palettes and reduces clashes between sources. Composites place the heroes into moments that would be too costly to restage. The method delivers cinematic crowds and chaos on a television clock. The approach became a template for later historical set pieces. New photography plus curated film library equals weekly scope. Episode 2 jumps to a near-future moon mission in 1978.
Please wait here. I'll tell Mrs. Neal.
One Way to the Moon sends Tony and Doug forward 12 years from air date. The story plays as a space sabotage thriller. Tight spacecraft sets, checklists and pressure doors, suit work, and a hidden threat aboard. Choosing 1978 kept the technology plausible for viewers while still promising tomorrow. Production used blocking, sound, and simple effects cues to suggest zero gravity tension. The forward jump broadened the series beyond backward-only travel. It also tapped public fascination with the Apollo era and near-term exploration. The episode shows how the show could pivot from past disasters to speculative missions without breaking tone. Science fantasy meets news-adjacent realism. Machiavelli appears at Gettysburg.
Daddy.
Yes, what is it, Tony?
Can Billy and me stay up later tonight?
The Death Merchant blends eras on purpose. Niccolo Machiavelli is pulled into the Battle of Gettysburg and tries to twist outcomes with strategy and gunpowder meddling. He serves as a living theory of power. The script tests whether ruthless calculation can steer a massive American conflict. The device rulebook widened. The tunnel is not only a viewer, it can displace people across time and create new ethical problems for the team. The premise moves beyond famous day reenactments into speculative collisions of ideas and turning points. It is a bold tonal swing for a network adventure hour, and it works because the show plays it straight inside its own rule. Merlin freezes the control room. The Night of Terror pushes genre boundaries. Merlin appears inside tunnel control, freezes the entire staff in place, extracts Tony and Doug from time limbo, and assigns them to protect young Arthur. Staging uses locked performances and steady console glow to sell the freeze without heavy post-work. Story logic shifts. The control room is no longer a safe observation deck. It is permeable to anomalies. Myth enters the scientific frame with confidence. That choice frees later episodes to blend hard history, pulp adventure, and legend when the stakes demand it. The internal rules hold. The device can touch timelines, and timelines can touch the device. The series grows wider without losing its spine. Finale with aliens stealing Earth's air.
Travel through time. More lies!
The final broadcast story does not offer a soft landing. It jumps to a small New England town in the late 1980s. Strange visitors blend in. Their plan is simple and terrifying. Drain oxygen from the planet and take what they need. The script turns quiet streets into a countdown. Lab scenes race to track and counter a threat that feels invisible. There is no farewell scene, no return home. The show ends in motion with another jump. That unfinished feeling helped the legend grow. Two travelers still falling through history. A control room still blinking in the dark. It is a bold way to end a first season. It says the machine keeps running even when the credits roll. A nuclear device hidden inside tunnel control.
Meaningless babble.
We gave you a glimpse into the future, but
Chase Through Time opens with a hard shock. A saboteur sneaks into the base and plants a nuclear device. A scientist dies. The attacker escapes into another era using the tunnel. Tony and Doug must follow across different years while the timer keeps ticking in the present. Every leap steals or saves a little time. The episode uses the clock as its main villain. Dialogue is tight. Sets are focused. Camera placement and cutting create speed without large stunts. It is a lean Cold War thriller wrapped in a time travel chase. The idea is clean. Stop the bomber before the countdown ends. Save the base. It shows how the series could compress huge stakes into a single urgent hour. Tony meets his younger self at Pearl Harbor. The Day the Sky Fell In sets Tony in Honolulu on the day before the attack. He sees his old neighborhood. He meets his childhood self. He learns the truth about his father during the strike. The structure is simple and strong. Personal history collides with world history. The episode balances action with a real emotional core. It treats loss with care and keeps the time travel rules clear. You cannot fix every tragedy. You can only witness and survive. Performances carry the weight. Practical effects and sound put the viewer inside the chaos. For a 1960s adventure show, it is unusually honest about grief and memory. Many fans still point to this one as a high mark. The tunnel can pull others through time. The device is not only a window, it can grab people. Sometimes the project yanks someone from the past into the control room by mistake. Sometimes a figure from the present is dropped into a past crisis to help. That rule widens the story engine. The base becomes a stage instead of a radio booth. Writers can bring a general or a scout into the lab and play out culture shock in real time. They can also send a modern expert straight into a battlefield and let the skills matter. This mechanic keeps the control room alive during field-heavy episodes. It also raises ethical questions. Who do you move? When do you send them back? What changes are acceptable? That commanding opening voice is Dick Tufeld.
Now tumble helplessly toward a new fantastic adventure, somewhere along the infinite corridors of time.
From the second episode onward, the series opens with a firm narrator who frames the premise in a few clear lines. The voice belongs to Dick Tufeld. He was already famous to science fiction fans for his work on another Irwin Allen series. His tone is calm but urgent. It gives weekly chaos a steady hand. You can drop into any broadcast and the rules click into place in seconds. Two scientists lost in time, a team straining to reach them, a machine that sees and sometimes touches history. That short preface was a smart tool. It allowed bold jumps between eras without long setup. The moment you hear it, you know the stakes and the mission. Theme music by a young John Williams. The main title is by John Williams, credited then as Johnny Williams. The melody is simple and forceful. Brass leads, snare pushes, harmonies tilt toward danger and discovery. It sounds like a launch countdown turning into a sprint. The cue does real work. It sells the scale of the tunnel set. It glues stock shots and new footage into one world. It also brands the show in the first minute. Viewers remember the rhythm, even when plots change from week to week. Williams would later score giant films, but the core strengths are already here. Clear theme, strong motif, precise hits that tell the audience when to brace and when to breathe. Television music doing cinematic duty. Emmy win for photographic special effects. In 1967, the series won a Prime Television Award for photographic special effects. The credited supervisor was L.B. Abbott. The field was strong that season. Weekly television had stepped up its ambitions with spaceships, submarines, and disasters. The win explains a lot when you rewatch. Model shots, matte paintings, optical composites, and stock integration hold together better than you expect for the era. The approach is methodical. Show a practical piece, bridge with an optical. Land on a human face. Repeat. It allows the show to feel large, even on a tight schedule. Recognition from the Academy marked that craft. It placed the series alongside the decade's most technically daring television. Dinosaurs borrowed from a Fox movie library. When Chase Through Time needed prehistoric creatures, the production did not start from zero. It reached into the 20th Century Fox library and pulled dinosaur effects from an earlier feature film. The shots were matched with fresh plates and sound to create a new sequence. This was a common and clever tool for the show. Use a strong movie element. Surround it with newly staged material. Let music and cutting sell the fit. The result feels bigger than a single episode budget could normally afford. It also gives the camera time to stay on the leads while the large-scale action plays in safe inserts. Efficient, resourceful, and surprisingly seamless for a weekly adventure. The tunnel illusion survived a smaller set. After the pilot, the control room moved to a tighter stage. Floor space shrank, but the tunnels still looked endless. The crew used painted rings, forced perspective, low-angle lenses, and carefully placed practical lights to stretch depth. Smoke and a wind fan added motion, so the eye kept reading distance. Optical matte extensions finished the image when needed. Editors timed cuts on the music swell to make the jump feel bigger than the room. This is classic stagecraft meeting optical printing. By hiding edges and selling directionality, the show kept its signature shot without building a warehouse. The result proves that thoughtful camera placement and art direction can beat square footage and keep scale consistent week after week. Irwin Allen's prop recycling approach. The production treated props and costumes as a shared resource across shows. Helmets, ray guns, panels, and alien suits were repainted, relabeled, and redeployed. Wall units were redressed with new bezels and gauges. Sound cues returned with small variations to suggest new technology. This was not corner cutting so much as time management. Weekly adventure television needs fast solutions that still feel big. Reuse allowed the team to deliver fresh worlds on a schedule while holding costs. It also gave viewers a stable visual language for science fiction devices. A single vacuum-formed shell could play as 3 different machines depending on finish and light. The method kept ambition high and helped maintain continuity of look across the season. Captain Name error in the Titanic pilot sequence.
Take your hand off that mic.
The pilot contains a small but famous slip. A line refers to the Titanic's captain as Malcolm. The historical name was Edward John Smith. The mistake likely came from script revisions under deadline while integrating film library shots and new scenes. Live action and stock had to align quickly, and dialogue loops were focused on story clarity and pace. The error remained in broadcast and later home releases, becoming a minor talking point among fans. It does not affect the sequence's impact, but it shows the pressure of weekly television production at scale. The pilot had to launch a franchise look and deliver a disaster set piece in 1 hour, and a stray name survived the rush. Tony Newman's shifting birth year. Across episodes, dialogue suggests different birth years for Tony Newman. This kind of continuity wobble was common in fast-moving 60s television, especially in a time travel premise where dates appear in almost every script. Writers prioritized plot momentum and clear stakes, then reconcile details when possible. In practice, once lines were recorded and episodes locked, small conflicts stayed. Fans later mapped the dialogue and flagged the inconsistency. The series itself offered no in-universe fix. It is a production artifact created by multiple writers, parallel outlines, and network notes arriving late. The larger point is that character age markers functioned as cues for emotional beats rather than hard biography that had to survive cross-episode math. Merchandise beyond the screen. Despite running for 1 season, the show generated a surprising range of consumer items. There was a boxed board game in the mid-60s, card games that simplified episode concepts into quick play, a coloring book, and a 3-reel stereoscopic viewer set that highlighted the control room and the tunnel mouth. Tie-in items served as memory anchors between reruns and syndication. They also extended the brand into family spaces like toy shelves and kitchen tables. The artwork leaned on the spiral motif and bold year markers. For a weekly show, these products helped retain audience attention after the broadcast window. They also preserve still images that show how sets and costumes looked under studio lights. Lee Meriwether's crossover star presence. The role of Dr. Anne McGregor benefited from Lee Meriwether's range and public profile. She had national recognition as a former Miss America and had played Catwoman on film the same era. That mix of visibility and discipline helped sell technical dialogue and command authority in the control room. She anchored scenes where the science needed a credible human center. Casting brought a clear tone to lab sequences that might otherwise drift into jargon. The character signals calm expertise under pressure and keeps story transitions crisp. Her presence also connected the series to a wider 60s pop culture landscape, reinforcing that the production operated at a high level of casting and presentation despite weekly schedules. The 2002 reboot pilot with Tony Newman A later attempt to revive the concept produced a new pilot in the early 2000s. The update reimagined Tony as Tony Newman and shifted tone toward a modern thriller. The control room design emphasized glass, projection, and real-time data, while the field work used handheld camera energy and quicker cutting. The core remained unchanged. 2 travelers in crisis, a team trying to lock on and pull them out. However, the pilot did not proceed to series. The unaired episode later appeared as a bonus in home video releases, giving audiences a look at how the premise adapts to contemporary pacing. It shows the flexibility of the format while honoring the original structure and mission beats. Pinball name change in the arcade. An electromechanical pinball machine initially used the title Time Tunnel in the early 1970s. Legal concerns led to a quick rename to Space Time. The playfield and mechanisms remain, but backglass, art, and branding were revised to avoid conflict. This is a small example of how a television property's identity can ripple into other media and products. Even without current broadcast, a memorable title can shape what manufacturers feel safe to print and ship. For fans, the rename is a notable footnote that links the series to arcade culture. It also illustrates how intellectual property management affected coin-operated entertainment at the time, where artwork and names could be swapped rapidly while hardware stayed the same. Gold Key Comics kept the jumps going. When the television run ended, the story continued in print. Gold Key published 2 full-color comic books in 1967, written by Paul S. Newman with art by Tom Gill. The issues read like missing episodes, sending the travelers to headline moments such as the night at Ford's Theater and the last day at Pompeii. The covers leaned into pulp adventure with bold titles and dramatic angles. Inside, splash pages recreated the tunnel swirl and the control room with recognizable accuracy. Comics removed weekly budget limits, so battles looked larger, crowds thicker, and disasters wider. For the brand, the pair of issues confirmed that the premise could live beyond television while keeping the same rules, gadgets, and rescue structure audiences already understood. The novelization and the title confusion. A licensed tie-in novel appeared in 1967, written by Murray Leinster to accompany the series. It expands the project's government framework, gives Senator Clark a stronger adversarial role, and throws the leads into events that differ from the broadcast episodes, such as the Johnstown flood and the Adobe Walls fight. Confusion has long followed because Leinster also wrote an unrelated science fiction novel with the exact same title published in 1964. Book collectors often see both paperbacks side by side and assume they are the same story. They are not. The series novelization tracks the show's tone and structure closely, while the earlier novel is a standalone work. The title overlap is a quirk of mid-century publishing and marketing. Japan's book and record edition. In 1967, the franchise reached Japan through an Asahi Sonorama book and record set. The release paired a 7-inch vinyl drama recorded at 33 1/3 RPM with a richly illustrated booklet. The audio condensed the premise for radio-style storytelling, complete with tunnel hums, control room chatter, and urgent countdown cues. The booklet delivered new artwork rather than screen captures, translating the show's look into bold inks and crisp layouts. This format mattered for international audiences because it packaged the concept in local media traditions children already knew. It demonstrated the premise could cross language and culture with sound design and clear visuals, keeping the core elements intact without relying on weekly television broadcasts. Kitchen table time travel with boxed game. Beyond comics and books, licensed tabletop items turned the premise into family play. Pressman's 1967 spin-to-win game used a spiral board and simple mechanics to decide time jumps and hazards. Ideal released a card game in 1966 that boiled episodes down to quick rounds with recognizable locations, tools, and mission beats. These products allowed the brand to live between airings, especially in an era before home recording. Art direction leaned on the tunnel mouth, ring patterns, and big gear labels so players instantly recognized the franchise. Rules were straightforward for broad appeal. Together, the games showed the property's adaptability to physical play, where a spinner and a hand of cards could stand in for weekly television spectacle. Viewmaster made the tunnel three-dimensional. A 3-reel Viewmaster set arrived in 1966, translating key images into stereoscopic depth. Layered slides placed the control room in the foreground, the tunnel mouth mid-frame, and the heroes as figures positioned within that space. The effect was more than novelty. Stereoscopy helped the optical matte illusions feel physical, and the lighting on consoles looked authentic even in still images. By clicking through the sequence, users experienced a curated highlight tour of sets and costumes with a convincing sense of scale. In a pre-video era, this was one of the best ways to revisit favorite moments at home. The viewer's familiar clack and the bright frames cemented the show's visual identity for a generation. Home video releases added hidden material. Later home video editions did more than remaster episodes. They restored the extended version of the original pilot with its alternate pacing and closing beat, allowing detailed comparisons with the broadcast cut. They also included the unaired early 2000s remake pilot, which reimagined Tony as Tony Newman and updated the control room aesthetics and thriller tone. Packaging often added still galleries and production notes that clarified matte techniques, stock footage sources, and set redresses. The upgrades gave the signature tunnel shot sharper edges and cleaner gradients, making the depth cue read well on modern screens. For researchers and new viewers alike, the discs turned the series into an accessible archive with both canonical episodes and rare developmental material. An officially licensed audio continuation in 2025.
Open up! Open up in the name of the Republic!
After many stalled revivals, a new chapter arrived as an audio drama series in 2025 under official license. The format returned to core strengths the property has always had, namely tense control room chatter, countdowns, and jump stings that work purely in sound. New characters carry the present-day frame, while the central problem remains unchanged: how to solve a crisis in one era without breaking another. Audio production values emphasize layered atmospheres, field reports, and the familiar tunnel cues to bind past and present together. The release marked the first fully realized continuation in years, moving the timeline forward rather than retelling old plots, and it demonstrated how the concept thrives when freed from weekly visual effects budgets. 3 comeback attempts and one that truly landed.
Are we through the gates? So far, so good.
Across the decades, multiple screen revivals were developed but did not proceed to series. A mid-1970s concept stalled at the script stage. The 2002 pilot shot but was not picked up. A mid-2000s cable script likewise remained unproduced. Each attempt explored fresh design languages and darker tones while preserving the chase and rescue engine. The consistent pattern was interest followed by economics or programming shifts. By contrast, the 2025 licensed audio series crossed the threshold into actual release, giving the franchise an active present rather than another near miss. The record of almost comebacks explains the property's enduring aura, always close to returning, finally continuing in a medium built for its strengths. Bonus fact: after decades of almost comebacks, the first true continuation arrived off television in 2025 as an officially licensed audio drama, produced with studio permission and set in the present day. It keeps the core engine intact with control room chatter, countdowns, and jumps, but advances the timeline instead of retelling old plots. New characters manage the project while the original mission logic remains, proving the format works even without visuals. This release finally moved the story forward in canon after the 1960s run, the unproduced 70s concept, and the unaired early 2000s pilot.